dear Alesta followers, in this episode of Leap Course, we have an inspirational couple, Nurefshan and Lloyd. I should thank you not only for hosting us, but also sharing your story with our followers. And I believe it will be a good start with a self-introduction, and we can start with Nurefshan.
Yes, thank you so much for interviewing us. My name is Nurefshan Jernigan. I'm 34 years old. I came to America 9 years ago, right after July 15th. I used to be a psychologist, and I was doing my master's in Turkey when everything went down. Now I have a few businesses that I run, and I'm married to my husband Lloyd. We have 2 cats and 2 dogs, and we live in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and that's about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And what about you, Lloyd?
My name is Lloyd Jernigan. Was born and raised in New York. I am currently a HVAC contractor, and like Nurefshan said, we live on the Outer Banks. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And, quick. I will start with Nurefshan. She said she was in Turkey on July 15th before and on July 15th. Can you tell us what time that was like for you in personally?
I was in Istanbul on July 15th, but 1 week before everything happened, in the newspapers there was already some accusations towards my dad. And so I was in a very confused state that day. I was trying to figure out what's going to happen to my dad. Should I go to... And by the way, when everything happened and when they accused him, he was stationed in Norfolk in Virginia, United States. So I was wondering if I should go help him, or should I go support him, or should I just keep working? And in the meantime, I was working in a university as a research assistant. My dad told me, no, there's nothing you can do. You should just stay there. We are trying to figure out what I'm accused with, because, I mean, yes, there was some news in the newspaper, but it wasn't really clear what my dad was being accused with. So that day, I went to work. It was a Friday, and I got off work. I was at home around 6 p.m. When my mom called me. She was like, did you see the news? Did you see what's going on? I said, no, what is going on? I had no idea. And she told me that there's a coup started. So my first reaction was, okay, I know the history of Turkey. I know coups usually happen in the morning when everybody's sleeping, not on a Friday when it's really, busy and crowded. So I was like, okay, that's weird. And then I turned on the TV and I just saw some people trying to block the bridges. And I used to live in Üsküdar, so I was only 15 minutes away from the bridge, but there was nothing going on. So my mom, and then I called my dad, and he had no idea what was going on. They were asking me what's going on. I decided that just in case it gets dangerous, it wasn't safe for me to be alone, because I was living alone in my apartment. So I decided to go to one of my friend's house. She lived on the European side of Turkey. So I took the subway like a normal day. I got on the bus, I went to their house. The only abnormal thing I realized was that the police stations that I walked by were completely dark, which was odd to me. Like, if there's a coup happening, wouldn't there be alarms and people trying to figure out what's happening? So then I went to their house. We started watching the news. And then we went to bed at 11. Again, everybody was so confused. Then I remember waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I was hearing the F-16 planes flying. I was hearing the bombs and everything. And I was like, okay, well, this is getting serious. Then I turned on the news, and it was the most ridiculous scene I have ever seen. It was the CNN's that scene where, the speaker is speaking, you can see the studio, and the studio was empty. There was nobody in there. And all of a sudden, a civilian walks in there with guns. And I'm like, okay, you know what? This is ridiculous. This doesn't make sense to me. And as soon as I saw that, I had a really bad feeling. I am against coups. I'm definitely, I believe in democracy, but I knew this was like something odd that was happening, because it couldn't have been a coincidence with them accusing my dad a week ago with out of the blue, which I want to get into detail about that real quick. When my dad is working in the NATO, they sent him an invitation, like not an invitation, but like a court call for hearing. And he couldn't go because he had a issue in his ear. He has vertigo, so he couldn't fly. So the doctor, gave him a doctor's report, and he couldn't go. Saturday, his hearing was at 9. He didn't show up. At 9:30, all the newspapers released the news. So it was like staged. It was almost like they already knew what they were gonna say. It was like, even if he came to the hearing or not, they were gonna accuse them with it. And you're innocent until proven guilty. There was nothing proven, but and then the coup happened. So with the coup happening, that happening, and the coup being strange, I was worried. Not because the coup was gonna be unsuccessful. It was just felt like it was gonna be worse than an actual coup.
Even as a civilian, you noticed that this was not a coup, but something odd.
Yes.
But after that, maybe after you saw your dad on the newspapers, have you been targeted just because of being daughter of an admiral? And what kind of days you have witnessed after July 15 or before?
So I was only in Turkey for 3 days after July 15th, but I have been targeted verbally at work, at the college that I worked in, by this one professor, immediately accusing me of being a part of the FETÖ organization. After the coup, my dad immediately bought me tickets, so I left. So I wasn't directly targeted, but I've received a lot of messages from people, like my friends, and then a few weeks later, I learned that the police went to the university that I worked in to look for me, and that's when they found out that I'm out of the country with a non-paid leave. And after that, I got fired from my job because of not going to work, which was illegal because I had at least like 3 months of leave. And then there have been some fake news about me in the newspapers. So yeah, I have been targeted throughout, like, over the months. Yeah.
If I'm going to ask Lloyd, what was it like for you to hear Nurefshan's story and everything she went through, especially about her resilience, and when you met her and after you heard the story?
It really was an eye-opening experience. You hear about things like that, but to hear how not only did it happen directly to her, but the fact that she was able to get on one of the last flights before they closed the airports to her certain type of visa, and that she was able to get to London and then effectively get to the US. It was honestly, it floored me. It's one of those stories that it's almost like a novel. right? It's like a story you read. But it showed me right away not only that she had gone through that, but when I did meet her, her personal success and how her family was doing. So to be able to go through something like that and essentially lose everything in the blink of an eye overnight, really, and for them to be doing okay, it showed me that she was an extremely strong person. Yeah.
I will come to you with another question.
Okay.
Proceeding with Rafshan. You said you left for US just after 3 days. Yet, was it an escape or was it a decision for a new life? Then what was the hardest part of saying goodbye to Istanbul or Turkey?
It definitely felt like an escape, but I was so in like denial. I think my brain was protecting me from what's happening. I was like, oh, it's okay. I will go and I will come back like in a month. You know, I'll just leave my apartment here. My friends will take care of other stuff. So I always thought I was going to come back. So I never had a chance to think that this is my last time in Istanbul. But going to the airport was scary because we didn't know if they were going to, you know, arrest me or they're coming after me. So my dad bought me the tickets, but he was trying to tell me in a way that if somebody is listening to our phones, will not know that I'm leaving the country at that specific time. And I remember the police used to stop you and they would take your phone and look at your phone. So I remember putting Erdogan's face on my phone in case they stopped me. I would be like, oh no, I like him. And then my friends took me to the airport. And I remember that people were celebrating on the bridge. We were passing right by them. Now that I look at it, it's so sad. I was leaving Istanbul without knowing that I won't go back there after 9 years sitting here giving this interview. So yeah.
So what is the most thing that you missed about Istanbul?
I just like missed the sound and the air and the energy. I say sometimes when I'm in America, I feel like I'm a fish that, you know, got out of the aquarium. It feels odd. It feels like empty. I just miss everything, like as a whole, you know, the sounds and the smell. Yeah.
When somebody says Istanbul, I have the picture of the historical peninsula.
Yes.
Especially the boats going across.
Yes, I think about that too. I think when I think about Istanbul, it's every morning I used to go from Üsküdar to Beşiktaş, and that view is the better view because you get to see the historic peninsula and the skyscrapers on the other side. I always think about that scene. Yeah.
Lloyd, did you ever visit Turkey?
No, I haven't.
And planning?
Hopefully one day, yeah. I wouldn't go without her though, so.
Hope it will be soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So you said you were not ready to live here, and you were thinking that someday, which is going to be in the short future, you will go back to Turkey, but you did not. You stayed in the US and moved forward. What helped you to stay, or what made you to stay here?
So I was doing my master's in clinical psychology in Turkey. It was my dream. So I loved it so much. And then I was also working at a university as a research assistant. I had my own apartment. I had great friends. I loved Istanbul. So in my mind, and I was I'm 34 now. I was 25 years old. I was very young, so I loved my life there. I didn't really want to move. So when I came here, I didn't even pack anything. I only packed a few t-shirts and some, summer clothes because it was summer. So what helped me stay here was the hope that I was going to go back, because I'm like, it's okay, I'm going to go back. Then first month, I lost my job. And I'm like, okay, it's okay. I'll go back after the state of emergency is done. Then I'll find another job. I still do my finish my master's. Then 3 months passed. Nothing changed in Turkey. It got even worse. They started arresting the daughters of the, admiral. So I was like, okay. My grandmother called me and she said, now you need to, maybe empty your apartment so you don't pay rent anymore. I'm like, okay. Then I lost that. Slowly, I lost everything. It was like excruciating because I didn't want to be here. And at 6 months, you have to seek asylum. And my dad said, you're not going back. I was upset, but there's no way I could have. I would have been arrested, so I seek asylum. After that, I think accepting the fact that I wasn't going to go back helped me, and then starting my business helped me a lot. Did that answer the question?
Yes, perfectly. And what was the period that you met each other? And let me ask Lloyd, how did you experience the cultural differences, and not just Turkish and American, but also her personal history?
Okay, do you want to know how we met first, or?
Yeah, sure.
So that's kind of a funny story that we joke about. So living down here, not growing up here, it's very kind of tight knit sometimes. So I was on a Bumble, which is a dating app, and kind of made my radius a little bit bigger. And she ended up being on the app as well, and we matched, and we talked for a little while. And she had set hers to 80 miles, thinking it was kilometers. So she thought that maybe I lived in Portsmouth or somewhere close by.
I was living in Norfolk.
Yeah. And so when we set up a date, she was like, well, how long will it take you to get to the restaurant? And I said, about an hour and a half, not knowing that I lived in a completely different state.
Yeah.
So funny story.
Yeah.
One of those things that
I didn't know he was in a whole different state. So we had a long distance relationship for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how did you experience the cultural differences?
I would say at first, because she was so new to the U.S., I think it was more of me teaching her American culture and customs, right, for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when I finally did get to meet her family and her parents and everything, it was just little differences, like tea time after dinner. We don't do that kind of stuff. They're very family oriented, which I feel like has kind of been lost in America for a little bit. So that was a nice difference. What else can you think of?
The food, you love the food.
I love the food. Yeah.
What is your favorite?
What is it called?
Çökertme kebabı.
Yeah.
Can you say it?
Çökertme kebabı. Yeah. We had it last night, actually. Yeah.
You're learning Turkish. What is your favorite idiom from Turkish?
Oh.
Or the word that you like or you don't like?
The word I don't like is ukshuruk shuburu.
Okay, that's
because I can't say it.
Okay.
But I'm not very good at it, but I do like, I think, like how çok is used in almost every other word when people are talking Turkish. I think I can pick up on like the very simple aspects of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will have one more question to
Sure.
you. After July 15, we have been heavily targeted by Turkish media, especially the high-rank officers like her father. So even if you Google a name, you will see lots of news, lots of allegations, accusations. Did you have any question marks after you met her and her family, or did you ever say what if, and what made you believe that she and her family were totally innocent?
So as far as the innocence, just getting to know her dad and her mom and her brother and the family, I never once doubted them. They just don't seem like those kinds of people. I will say that when I first met her, I remember briefly hearing about the coup, but not really looking into it or really, following the news. I was also 25 at the time, so not really paying attention to what was going on in the world per se. But getting the time to just sit down with her dad and just learn about his life and him tell me stories and a lot of the history of Turkey, like she had mentioned before. I didn't know that coups were part of the Turkish culture since it was created. So just being educated by Mustafa and how, just the way things work in a different country, it was very, very enlightening. And I just have full faith in him. I mean, I never once thought that he could do anything nefarious or anything like that. They're just great people.
Now, you said that currently you are running a few businesses in North Carolina. And can you tell about your journeys? So you were a lady that thinking you are going to turn back one day.
Yes.
And then now you have several businesses running all.
Yes.
And what is the inspiration that make you the success?
When we first came, when I came here, my dad lost his job a few weeks later, so there was no more income, and they had moved to America only 6 months ago, so they were still in a lot of debt. They had bought new furniture, cars, and so they didn't have many savings. And then my grandparents were helping me, but after a while, they're not financially really wealthy either, so they couldn't help us anymore. And I was hearing people sell things on eBay, Amazon, so I was like, maybe I can do something like that. But I just want to tell to the listeners, before I got to that point, I just want to be honest, I wasn't immediately, yes, I have to survive. I sat on the couch for maybe 5 months watching TV and eating junk food because I was really depressed. It didn't come naturally. But after seeing my parents struggle so much, I was like, okay, I need to do something. So I did some research. I saw that people buy and sell antiques on eBay and you make a profit. I'm like, okay, let's give it a try. So one day, there was an antique shop in Virginia Beach. My dad, my mom, and I went there, and we were looking around to see what would sell. And I took pictures of some of the things that we thought would sell, but I don't have the money to buy it and then sell it. I don't have money to have an inventory. So I was like, whatever, I'll just, if it sells, I'm gonna run back there, buy it, and then ship it. So I go home, I make listings on eBay. Yeah, yes, it was eBay. So I listed them on eBay, and then one of them sold. No, the customer asked me, how many inches is it? I said, 12 inches, I don't know. She said, and then she bought it. And I'm like, oh my God. So my parents were taking a nap. We always take naps. So I got a ruler. I ran to the antique shop and I secretly measured it. It's 12 inches. I'm like, oh yes. Then I bought it and then I shipped it. I think I made $3 profit. And we were so happy. We were like, oh, we can buy this much gas, or we can do something. And that gave me so much hope. That triggered something. Buying something for $5 and selling it for $8, well, that's fun. So I started researching what else can I do. I think that's how I figured out, discovered my entrepreneur side. I saw these hand woven wall art that people make with their hands and sell it on Etsy. I typed it on YouTube. It's pretty easy. So I learned how to make those. And then I made one and I put it on Etsy. 1 week later, it sold. And I think I made like $20 this time. So that's huge. That's so much money. Oh, I'm like, okay, I can make more designs. So I had like 10 or 15 different designs I kept selling. I sold maybe 100 of them. But it was very hard to make one. It would take hours. So I'm like, okay, what else can I make and sell on Etsy? Then I saw that people buy these sticky notes, notepads, planners from Michaels and Hobby Lobby, and they sell it on Etsy. It didn't make sense to me. Why don't people buy it from Michaels? But I'm like, okay, let's try. And it started selling. I remember it was the 31st of December of that year, the year of the coup. There were fireworks going outside and I was working in our living room. I had all these stationery products that I bought. But what I did was my parents, you know how, I guess all parents, but especially Turkish parents, they were very like, don't waste your money, don't spend your money, it's very risky. I know it's risky, but I know it's going to work. So I had this Turkish credit card. And I went to Michael's and I bought everything with that card. And I didn't tell my parents because they were going to get scared. And I kept the receipt in case I need to return everything. And I remember that day when I was going to buy that stuff and I figured out that might sell. I remember my mom on the phone crying to my grandfather. Like, we are really in need of money. So I was like, this has to work, this gotta work, but don't tell them. So I went and spent like $800 with my credit card. And I'm like, what happened? If I can't pay it, I can't go back to Turkey anyways. So what's the worst thing that could happen? Anyway, that they started selling and that's when business started growing. Then, this is my favorite story, so it might be a little long. Then I was like, why am I buying these stuff from Michaels? I can make them from paper and make so much more profit. So I learned how to make planners and inserts and all that stuff. And I started selling them. A few months later, our house turned into this paper company. My parents were helping, my brother was helping. We were all cutting, punching, packing papers. We sold so many. And after a few months, we paid off my dad's credit card debts and we started saving money on top of paying our rent and everything. Before that, I was trying to get into universities again to continue my education, but I couldn't manage both. But then I really, really liked finding new things to sell, helping my family and seeing the potential. So I stuck with it and now I have been doing it for 9 years. The paper business that I told you, I gave it to my brother. He's still running it. It's very successful because I got bored with that and I started a custom tumbler. I used to engrave tumblers. Then I started selling clothes. Now I have a business that sells custom clothes, embroidered and printed. And I also have another company that makes stationery products, but with people's pets on them. Because that is something I like to be around. Animals make me happy. And now I donate 1 meal per order to the animal shelter here for that paper company. So that's where I am now. I just really like that feeling. Yes.
So when your ways came across, you did 2 years distance relationship, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
And if you want to share, how did you propose and when did you decide to propose?
Sure. So we had gone to New York to visit some family of mine. My sister still lives up there with her husband and their kids. I had decided, I think, that October or November that I was ready. So I had bought the ring, but just couldn't really decide when and where I wanted to do it. So I knew that we were going to New York and that we were going to go into the city. And my thought was to do it at Rockefeller Center in front of the giant Christmas tree. So we went with my mom and my sister and had lunch at Rockefeller Center and went out and stood by the tree, and we were taking pictures. And then in that moment I was like, this is just too much chaos. It's so cheesy almost, right? But I wanted to do it. I was so ready to ask, so ready to give her the ring. So it's actually funny, when we got back, we were staying at my brother-in-law's parents' house. So we get back and everybody goes inside, and I say, Nunu, I need to talk to you about something. And I proposed to her in their front lawn.
Yeah.
And then we went back inside and showed everybody, and they were all excited. And
It's a really nice story. If you don't mind, I want to ask, it might be the hardest question, but well, then you have been through the heartbreaking of losing a child.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you navigate such grief, and how did you
We are still navigating.
yeah. I would say the biggest thing is we're always very open and honest with how we're feeling and how we're doing, and there isn't a lot of guesswork, I would say, between us. If there's something wrong or something's happening, we communicate really well. And with that just comes, one day one of us is having a bad day and the other one just has to be the rock, and the other day it might be the opposite. I couldn't have gone through it with anybody else but her.
I think I was able to come out of it is because of him, because he was so strong, so helpful, sad, but not like he was my rock. He kept me together for months, and I was very sick when it happened, so he took care of me. I would like to tell it, because if there's any other women that are going through this, I want them to know and not feel alone. We tried to get pregnant for 3 years. We couldn't get pregnant naturally, so after a few tries, we finally got pregnant with IVF. My pregnancy was very healthy, and we were 22 weeks. We were really far. I could feel him kicking. He could even feel him. Everything was normal. We were on Sunday. Lloyd was fixing our laundry room because we were trying to get the house ready. And next day, all of a sudden, I got very sick out of the blue. I stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. They still don't know what happened. It was nothing to do with the baby. It just came out of the blue. And I was so sick. I went septic. I almost died. And my body had to give birth in order to keep me alive. So Charles was born on October 16, 2024. He lived 12 hours. And unfortunately, we witnessed him passing away. They were giving me heart massage. Babies living at that age is very, very rare. And he had a little hole in his lungs, so he couldn't breathe on his own. He passed away. We held him, and then we stayed in the hospital.
And she was still sick.
I was very sick.
So we were still in the hospital for
10 days.
10 days after that.
No, 12 days after. We couldn't even put him into his grave early. It was so hard, but he slept on the couch next to me for 2 weeks, did not complain once, and he was so strong for me. It was really, really hard. We came home, and then we remembered him and everything we did. Like, I had a pregnancy pillow. Somebody had to come to our house and get rid of it. Our families were amazing. My parents, his mom, they were so supportive. They were always here. They cooked for us. They always called us, and we always talked about him. I think talking is very important for me. It helps me.
Yeah, going back to how do you get through the grief, the people around you also.
Yes. We will, the people that were with us, helping us through that time, I would go to war with them because it's so hard to be around people like us. Losing a child, you don't know, nobody knows what to say to us. Nobody knows what to do around us. It's always very awkward. But for those people that were with us, it meant so much. And then we had our hard days. Like he said, sometimes I have bad days, he has good days, but sometimes we both had bad days. And we just remember this is part of the process. Like, this is not forever. It will always be sad, but it gets better.
Yeah.
It's been 9 months
I think
now?
going through IVF, and then having transfers that didn't work, and Charles was actually our last embryo that we had, and he was able to stick, and she got pregnant. So there were so many more layers to it, you know. If we decide to try again, we're actually back at square one with IVF, which is, it's hard. I mean, it took us years, and we finally thought that we had made it to the other side. And like she said, we had our 20-week checkup, which is the big one, and he was healthy and everything looked great. And another thing that just
it's
out of nowhere.
Nowhere. I always, this is to connect the two things. I always thought what happened to us in Turkey was the biggest thing that could ever happen to me in a bad way, trauma. I was like, okay, I paid my dues, I'm good to go, I will have a better life. And I was always sad because it's such a big trauma. And then this happens. Now, actually, I'm like, okay, that wasn't that big of it. Like, it was. But actually, so what I had a hard time was, why did this happen to me? Why did it happen to us? We tried so hard. We finally got pregnant. We want a baby so much. And there are people out there that don't want babies, they have it. Why? And then it happened, and I was like, there must be a reason. What is the reason? What is the reason? Now I look back, I don't think it's good enough of a reason, but I really feel like it made me a stronger person. It made me want to help other people. If that hadn't happened, I would have not said yes to this interview, because I get very sad talking about the things that happen. My dad and my mom are really brave. They have already done 3-4 interviews. I always said no because it just hurts so much. But when I was in that really deep pain, when other people helped me, I really appreciated it. So I wanted to do this because of Charles. Even if I can help one person, give hope to one person, a woman that lost their baby, or somebody that left their country, or left Turkey and having trouble, living here, I think that's the silver lining for me. I'm thinking maybe that's why it happened.
Well, yeah, I think like you're saying, even after we lost Charles, we contacted our clinic just to let them know what had happened. And it's a great facility, and they have support groups and things like that. And they said, well, hey, we have this, Zoom support group. We want you guys to check it out. And this was a month after we had just gotten home.
It was like 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah. And we get on this call, and there's 16 other people in this call, and the therapist, and people start going around and telling their stories, and you hear, a couple that had been doing IVF for 7 years and finally gotten pregnant, and also had lost the baby at
40 weeks.
40 weeks, right? And just so many other people. When we came home, like Nurefshan was saying, she was like, oh, I already got kicked out of my country, right? I've paid my dues in life. Like, I lost my dad when I was 20. I thought I had, things would get better. But just sitting in there and hearing everybody else's story, it helps to know that you're not the only one that things happen to. I feel like, so with what she's saying and doing the interview, whether it's focusing on losing a child or getting kicked out of your country, we want other people to know that there are people out there that go through what you go through, and you're not alone, right?
I'm really sorry for your loss, but
Thank you.
as you said, that made you more stronger and more a family,
Yes.
as I see. So it is not going to be behind, it is going to be always with you, but as the Turks or everybody says, life is going on.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to ask you, what are some dreams you have for your future together as a couple or as an individual?
I think our biggest collective dream is to travel together and,
Yes.
see the world, to retire early. I think that's a goal for both of us. I don't know.
I eventually want to get a big farm and rescue animals, but like so many animals. But in the future.
And what about Turkey? Is it in your dream or?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
It's number 2. where I wanna
Hey,
go in the
Lloyd.
world.
He's messing with me. He wants to go to Italy
right after
first.
Italy, then we can go to Turkey.
Yeah, a lot of Turkish people will watch this, Lloyd. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, obviously being married to her and being around her family and getting to even meet her grandparents, I want to go really, really badly. but I want it to be a trip that we all can take together, right? I want it to be that thing. I mean, just knowing how homesick she is, and I feel like her parents are even more homesick.
Yes, they are very homesick.
I just would love to witness them stepping off that plane and being home.
I want to say something here because it's important. When I came here, I was 25 years old, so it was so much easier for me to adapt to the American culture. It is so much harder for my parents because they lived in Turkey more than here. So I just wanted to say to the listeners that if they are feeling lonely here, or they are feeling like they're not adapting, or they're having problems, that's very normal. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to add is, he has been with me for 7 years. He knows my family, he knows the culture. I tell him about Turkey all the time, but he has never been there. So it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't know much.
I only know these little glimpses that really her parents can kind of recreate here.
Yes.
Right?
Bayrams.
Bayram and mostly holidays.
Holidays.
Not really like too much culture, right?
Yeah, like for example, he kisses my dad's hand in Bayram to get money, but it's like kids do that, so it's like funny and it's also different.
Yeah.
Like I really want to show him everything.
But it's been a lot of fun.
It's fun to
both ways. I mean,
yes.
Her parents come to, Thanksgiving and our holidays, so it's been fun showing them what to eat and
yeah.
So going back to Turkey altogether, the thing that you will need is not the flight ticket, but the justice ticket, and I hope that it will come true soon or sooner.
Yes.
So thank you so much for being so open, honest, and clear. And again, thank you for your sharing your inspirational story together. We can come to the closing with your final words. I will ask Lloyd for his last words, and then maybe I can ask you both English and Turkish.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you again for all that you do, and your team to sit down and take the time and do these interviews and get this out to people who might need to see it. Again, my final thing is kind of what I was talking about before, is that I just want people to know that they're not alone in this world. Everybody goes through trauma and different things, and there's always people out there who are looking to help and willing to help. So don't ever think you're by yourself.
English or Turkish?
Both. However you feel comfortable.
Okay, I will start with English because it's hard for me to switch to Turkish. I agree with him, and I just want to tell people that no matter what happens, even if you are forced to leave your country and then lose a child or worse things, there are so much worse things in the life, it hurts and it will hurt, but it will get better, and there is always a silver lining. So whoever is out there listening, it can be a Turkish immigrant, Mexican, or any other, it will be better. It feels like it will last forever and it hurts, but it gets better. Don't lose hope, I would say. And now in Turkish. Bu arada size teşekkür etmeyi unuttum. Teşekkür ederim bunu yaptığınız için bizimle ve diğer arkadaşlarımızla. Türkçem için de özür dilerim. Annem babamla konuşurken gayet normal konuşuyorum ama nedense böyle hani yeni tanıştım ya da çok alışık olmadığım ortamlarda biraz unutabiliyorum. bizim başımıza gelen şey çok adaletsiz, öfke uyandırıcı, çok çirkin bir şey. Hepimizin yaşadığı şeyler farklı. Bazı insanlar annesinin babasının cenazesine gidemiyor. Bazı insanlar belki kardeşlerini göremiyor. Ben kendimi biraz daha şanslı buluyorum. Çünkü benim annem, babam ve kardeşim burada. Babaannem, anneannem gidip gelebiliyor. Çok genç geldim buraya, o yüzden buraya daha iyi alışabildim. Ama mesela annemle babamı görüyorum. Onların alışması daha zor. Daha çok zorlanıyor. Daha kalp kırıcı. O yüzden hani nasıl desem?
I can't help you.
I know. I lost my train of thought.
Take your time.
What was I saying? Yes, bizim başımıza gelen, hani herkesin yaşama şekli farklı. Sizin yaptığınız görüşmelerde de bunu görüyoruz. Ben kendi açımdan şunu söylemek istiyorum. Eğer hani şu an Amerika'daki ya da başka bir ülkedeki maceranızın neresindeyseniz bilin ki her şey güzel olacak ve bu kadar kötü şeyden bile bu kadar hani güzel şeyler geldi. Ben kendi açımdan söylersem eşimle tanıştım. Aslında hiç yapmak istemediğim bir alanda kendimi zorlamaktansa şimdi çok severek yaptığım bir işim var. Burada da zorluklar oluyor ama sanki orada yaşadığımız zorluklar bize hayatın diğer zorluklarına biraz daha böyle resilient, dayanıklı yaptı. O açıdan öyle düşünüyorum. Başınızı dik tutun. Umudunuzu asla kaybetmeyin. Ve bir gün hep beraber geri döneceğimize %100 inanıyorum. Çünkü çok uzun sürebilir, yıllar da geçebilir ama adalet bir şekilde geliyor ve biz bazen anlamıyoruz neden olduğunu bazı şeylerin. Çocuğumu kaybettiğimde oldu, neden oldu. Bazen anlamak zorunda değiliz. Bazen belki 10-20 yıl sonra anlayacağız ve diyeceğiz ki iyi ki de olmuş. O yüzden umudunuzu kaybetmeyin diyorum dinleyicilerimize. Umarım bir gün hep beraber Türkiye'de, İstanbul'da buluşuruz.
Çok teşekkür ederiz. Thank you so much. Let me finish with a Navy phrase. Fair winds and following seas.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.